That's what I've been trying to figure out. We can set the conditions. We can't ask for it, but we can set the conditions. Now that our left brain is quiet, the sacred gift of truth or wisdom can come through our right brain. And Steve Jobs said, he was a pretty genius guy, right? I think he had a lot of creativity going on in his world. His words tell us, if you sit and observe, you will see how restless your mind is. If you try to calm it, it only makes it worse. But over time, it does calm, and when it does, there's room to hear more subtle things. That's what we're looking for, those subtle things. It doesn't happen unless you're quiet. That's when your intuition starts to blossom, which is what we're talking about with teaching the Spirit. And you start to see things more clearly and be in the present more, right here, right now, that present moment. Your mind just slows down and you see a tremendous expanse in the moment. You see so much more than you could see before. It's a discipline, again, a practice. You have to practice it. So before we move on to our fourth step, since we're talking about stilling the mind, please make sure that we are, in fact, still. Eyes closed, body heavy. Bring yourself right back. Your soul wants nothing more than to be where we're going. You can feel it getting quieter and still. And now we move on. That was less than 30 seconds. Did you feel the difference in your being? That's becoming aware of yourself and the present moment. So we're talking about listening, right? That's the next step. We have to listen. Because the mind is now quiet, which means that the right brain is open, the wisdom is coming through, and we need to listen. And what did Maya Angelou say in her final tweet before she died? She said, listen to yourself, and in that quietude you might hear the voice of God. Quite analogous to be still and know that I am God, from the Bible. Everyone in here has had the experience of, I knew I shouldn't have done that, I knew I shouldn't have said this. How did we know that? Everybody's had that. How did we know that I knew I shouldn't have done that? We did it because we had an ow moment, we had an aha, we had inspiration that we didn't listen to. That's how. We're learning how to teach with spirit. Einstein said that this left brain of ours is a faithful servant, like the computer, it's a faithful servant. And the right brain is a sacred gift. A sacred gift means that look at that adjective, sacred. And if it's coming through, if it's sacred, it's truth. The wisdom, epiphanies, insights are in fact truth. This is the moment when Spirit is speaking to us, guiding us. Some call it intuition, but our minds must be quiet for the genius to come through. Often, when we do listen, the messages we get make us very uncomfortable. It's something we don't want to do. It's something perhaps that doesn't make sense. It's something that perhaps we've been fighting. If we treasure the information as a sacred gift, then faith must come in. That in fact, that is truth, that is the right answer, follow it. For if we don't, where are we going to end up? We'll end up with another, I knew I shouldn't have done that, I knew I shouldn't have said that, right? That's how it works. So then, now that we've listened, we have to act. Again, like I said, we must act on this truth. Follow the guidance, act on it. Know you've received the answer and go forth. There's another interesting phenomena about aha moments. When we get the answer, when you're sitting somewhere and all of a sudden the answer comes in, we say, oh, that's it. You don't say to yourself, I better go research that and double check it and triple check it, right? No, because we know it in our bones. We feel it. It is truth. We never have to answer that. We don't say, oh, yeah. And so we must act upon the truth. And then if that isn't enough, and we need something more, we go to the final step, the 6-step process, and that is check the answer. And as good educators, we always want to check our work, right? So this is what we do. The proof is actually in the pudding. At some point in time, and it may not be right away, the answer will prove itself true. And when we will say to ourselves, now I understand why I have to move to California. Or now I understand why the house didn't sell. That's where I am right now, okay? And we'll see what happens, but I know that there's a bigger thing, right? So we check it, and we follow our guidance, and we move forward. So now, listen. Well, let me see if we have time, because I don't have enough time to show you Journalier, and I'm not going to do it because I've shown it to you before, and you can see this, even though we did all this work to make it happen. He's basically telling you what I just told you, and so I'm not going to tell you that again, but it's fun to listen to him. I hope I'm going to be able to move to the next one. There we go. And we're going to move now. Now, notice that we've been talking a lot about still point, right? We started with still point, mindfulness, present moment awareness, and so on. When we do our mindfulness practice that brings us into the present moment, we're stilling our body and mind. Can you tell that I was a yoga teacher, right? Still the body and the mind. Then you hear the silence. First the body, then the mind. Stillness is being the desired state. Note that the point at which we get our insights, our truth, our ha-has, or our all moments is during our alpha state of mind, when our left brain shuts down or is still. Stillness is what we seek and need to connect to when we teach with spirit. Now, we began this by talking about the transformation that happens within us when we're called to be an educator. I'm asking you for another transformation, and that is to awaken spiritually. So whatever level we are at in terms of connecting to spirit and having spirit guide us and listen, we want more. I want more. So we're looking for more. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through the 7 stages of spiritual awakening, and as I do that, I will tell you what Teach with Spirit or Optimal Wisdom Learning, how it coincides. So you can see my 2 little cute things right there, and I will tell you what it is. The first one is a catalyst, all right? It is a life-changing paradigm-shifting event. It jolts you awake. Alternatively, a series of gentler, minor awakenings occur until you are fully awake and aware. Sounds like an earthquake, doesn't it? That's pretty much what it is. You have an earthquake. You might have a divorce, you might have a big sickness, you might have lost a job, you might have fallen in love, you might, whatever it is that's going to jolt you. It's a catalyst. It is beginning the propelling of you moving into it. So in Optimal Wisdom Learning, we talk about the desire. Remember, that was the first step. It was a quest or a seeking for an answer that is so important to you. You begin to search your left brain and ultimately go beyond and within. Your thinking has a paradigm shift from the left brain to the right brain. That's what we're doing in Optimal Wisdom Learning. That's the transformation about the catalyst. Remember St. Mother Teresa? Remember how she left her missionary and had to start her own. Pretty big. Or we could run through the streets naked screaming Eureka. You know, whatever. And then once we have the catalyst, we have a shift in perception. What that means is you begin to see things differently, and that alters how you perceive your life. By surrendering your left brain, shutting down, you open to answers coming from your inner teacher, your inner knowing. So you may not listen to the person that's telling you their opinion, because you might have the answer within yourself, and trust yourself and that guidance more than anyone else. That's where we're headed. And remember how all of my interests and friends and beliefs changed when I fell in love and began seeking spiritually, right? Everything shifted. So it's a change in perception. That's the next step. Then you move to the journey of discovery. Your field of awareness expands and new information streams in. And how could it not? Everything is bigger now. You're asking Spirit, which is limitless, to speak to you, that has all the answers to guide you. So of course everything becomes bigger. All the solutions are possible. All the answers are there. So our journey of discovery has us thinking bigger. As you begin to listen to the stillness, remember that's the third step, you experience the opening for new insights, solutions, and creative thought. Because when you're listening through the stillness of the right brain, that's creative thought. That's not just the same old stuff that's in our computer over here. Remember seeing the breakdancers in a new way. That's an example of how we have a different set of different eyes for perception. We then follow and we have a seeking to understand. You begin to see magic in the mundane, and it's so fun. Yesterday, I was at my house and I have half the house packed up to go to California and the other half is just a mess. And all of a sudden they called and said, "We want to show the house." Oh my gosh, how am I going to do that? Okay, I'm trying to quickly assess. I have time to vacuum the floors. I have time to do this. I have time to do that. I can get the toilets clean. I can do that. I can shove that box there. But how am I ever going to blow off the deck and the thing down to the lake? And I don't have time for that. That's just going to end. Proof there at the front door was the guy, the long guy. He just showed up at my door right then. That's seeing the magic in the mundane. That's what happens when you open to Spirit. Acting on the answers you receive during our moments, you experience the magic of the sacred truths and the epiphanies. Eureka described a magical moment. So did Eddie's expression of growing understanding. How about the moment of Buddha and the flower for that one disciple? That was a magical moment. Seeking to understand. And then we move into developing our own spiritual gifts, which is what we're doing now. We have them, we're developing them, we're growing them. You begin to consciously seek a deeper connection to Spirit. Our connection to Spirit is like heroin. When our soul touches the connection to Spirit, it's got to have more. There is nowhere else our soul wants to be, and it will seek and seek and seek relentlessly until it gets there. So, and wisdom from the inner teacher, reflection upon and autopsying the steps of the owl moment in your mindful, still point, present moment awareness, your gifts develop. That's why I want you to find the aha moment and then practice them, and then autopsy them. That's how we develop the awareness, the innate, the present moment. How many times have we spoken in this last hour about practicing and that it is something we have to do? It is like a practice. And then once we do all that, we have to own it. If we don't own it, then what's it all about? You start to trust your connection with Source. So when you get the answer, you no longer say, "Oh, I don't know whether I can do that." You just know. Okay, that's what I need to do. Because I've been shown that if I don't do that, it doesn't work out well. Okay? And we go through this as many times as we fall down on our face until we finally say, "Wow, I got the answer. I better do what I've been told, and I better do because it's going to be the right answer." Experiencing our moments and living the truth of their answers is what allows us to build our trust. We see the effect of the answer. When we say, I now know why that answer came through. Even though we didn't see it then, we have the proof later on that says, now I see why. Once you experience the fullness of Spirit, it is always available to you. It's available to you right now. Always there. You just become still. It's your spiritual legacy. And then we must reintegrate with our soul. You begin to manifest a life that is in true alignment with your highest self. Here you sit. You have manifested where you are right now, listening to a keynote about how to teach with Spirit, because that is how you are aligned with it. Wisdom from the inner teacher tells us